Hi, I'm Darlene Carman.
And I'm Doug Carman.
And welcome to the show. I thought improv was a way to improve or develop acting skills. After talking with Whitted, I soon found out that practicing the art of improv is a means to self-improvement. It can help us sharpen our sense of observation, strengthen our interactive experiences, stretch our innovative insights, and improve public speaking skills, just to name a few. Hey, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Darlene.
Yeah.
Thanks, Doug.
Now, Will, I know that you background experience, you've done a lot of teaching and coaching, and you've also worked with the Peninsulators. So tell us about them.
The Peninsulators were a group that came together for a contest at Bay Area Theater Sports, and they competed successfully there. I helped them come together and become an ensemble. It's really a challenge when you get a group of diverse actors together for the first time. They need to learn a little bit about each other. They need to learn to trust one another and to interact with each other, kind of how they're going to respond to something that someone else says. With that understanding, they can work as a much more cohesive group, and it makes the improv much better.
Okay.
So I helped them with that. And then as they started here at the TV station, we started doing something that had never been done before. One of the members, Mark Kevney is his name, he's now the leader of them. He had this idea that we could do live improv shows. So the TV show was a live show, and at the same time we're webcasting it so that viewers can communicate with us to provide suggestions for the group and things like that. So it's interactive in that way, and we believe that to be the first show that's done that. I think we're showing a bottom third. I think we have a bottom third that will show the YouTube site where you can see some of the past shows of the Peninsulators. They're currently on hiatus until fall, but you can take a look at what they've done before. I'm not directly involved with them anymore. They still practice in my theater space, and I occasionally run the lights for them here at the studio.
But you also teach another class of some sort?
I do. I co-host. I'd rather say co-host than teach. It's it's the salon in the sense of the in the sense of the French Impressionists had a salon where they artists would all gather together and they would share what they knew and add commentary to what other people had done, so that they could all learn from that. Well, my goal with our improv salon is to bring improvisers together to have fun, to play, and also to share the things that we individually know that might help each other become better improvisers. The group is open to anyone who's had at least a beginning improv class. We don't open it up to people who've never worked in improv at all, because there's some very basics to it that if you don't know them, they kind of slow you down. Beginners need to have a class with beginners so that they get the attention they need.
Well, even though that's improv, there is a structure to a certain structure that somebody has to understand before they get involved. Is that what I'm hearing when you say you don't pick somebody come walking right off the street and says, okay, open up your soul and give us your thoughts, and we will develop a scene or a script or a story based around your feelings and emotions and that. So they have to have some structure to start with. Is that correct?
Doug, if that was possible, that would be great. I would love to do that. I'd just love to take the whole world and bring them in and have them do improv. Unfortunately, we don't, in this society, we don't know these things. They're not specific to improv. They're actually, it's kind of interesting. They're very Zen-like. The things, the basic premises. The first one is just mindfulness, being aware of what's going on around you, and the second, in the way I look at it, which is a little different than conventional improv, the second one is to accept the reality that's presented to you, accept as real what's happening around you, either in the scene or if in regular life, just accepting what's true. The third one would be to be comfortable with not knowing what comes next.
Oh.
People are challenged by that.
Yeah.
But it's a critical factor in being creative, actually. If you can surprise yourself with the thing you think, that's wonderful.
Well, you also wouldn't you have in a group, you'd have a certain amount of group dynamics, and you could also end up with somebody who's a real verbose and just kind of dominate, and they have to understand that this is there's a sharing that has to go on for everybody to benefit, or for the story to actually progress with everybody's input. Otherwise, you'd have somebody's monologue, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely true. We call it driving. It's
Driving.
Oh, yeah.
driving.
Driving.
The opposite side of driving is whimping. It's where you just sort of sit back and
Yeah.
wait for everyone else to do the heavy lifting. Neither one of them work very well. And so those are some of the strategic things. What I'm talking about in my list that I'm making here, though, are more generalized functions, because I think improv's real strength is in its transferability. It transfers into many, many different things. I recently taught, well, about a year ago now, I recently co-taught a class that we called Zen and Improv. I taught with a Zen Roshi, John Tarrant. He would read and work with us on Zen koans, and then I would select an improv exercise that fit with the essence of that koan, and we would do that. And I found it great. The audience, our class, was made mostly of Zen students. So it was interesting to me how quickly they picked this up, because many of the tenets are the same. The ones I've mentioned so far, the mindfulness, the acceptance of reality, the embracing not knowing, looking for what comes next, the thing that's logical to do next and doing it, being, sorry, my brain is slipping.
Well, you're being in the moment,
The koan is,
working with what's there.
what Zen would say is, when you peel potatoes, peel potatoes. And what they mean is to be focused on the thing that you're doing at the moment.
Yeah.
To be, to throw yourself into it completely. And I think the last thing, and a very important thing, is to endeavor to make the people that you work with look good. Because if you try to make yourself look good, it doesn't work. Nobody looks good when you're doing that, including yourself. So if you can make the people you're playing with look good, then the chances of it working.
So
are
get
much
your
better.
mind off yourself.
Yeah.
And
Keep sharing. It's a matter of sharing. And if you think about these things, they work everywhere in life. They work in doing artwork. They work in doing design. They work in just talking with people. They work in business. These things are very transferable skills. They're life skills rather than theater skills.
Yeah, you kind of teach what I heard before talking to you in the past was that you're teaching a kind of non-conventional type of improv. So there's a lot more in it that the students or who the people you're coaching can get from from doing improv, other than strengthening maybe their acting skills. There's a lot more to be gained. I can see a couple right now in business where conducting business meetings where somebody who was skilled in improv could better understand the value of helping others draw them out. You know, maybe somebody who is introverted is not communicating in the meeting, they could spot that right away if they've had improv. That was something they wouldn't be thinking about everything that they were saying. They would actually start thinking about what other people are and the value of their input. And in the past with business meeting, I do remember that we always had a few self-absorbed people who wanted to dominate, and everybody eventually just power. They would speak over everybody, want to take control of the meeting, and nothing would really get done that was you'd leave with.
yeah.
All we heard from this guy and his point of view. And so I can understand in a way how I can see right away where there'd be a value for learning the skills of improv.
Yes. Part of that is the mindfulness, being aware of what's going on in that group, noticing that someone isn't talking a lot. A really good manager will elicit input from that person, and also respect their need for not making input, because people who are introverted, like me, I'm horribly introverted, I don't...
You could surprise me, Will.
Well, I'm an improviser, so I improvise being extroverted, so that's...
I get that, yeah.
Yeah. People who are introverted take more time to think things through, while people who are extroverted tend to shoot from the lip more. They tend to talk.
How true, yes.
And both are perfectly valid ways of thinking. They're just different ways of thinking. So the job of a manager who's running a meeting is to get the most out of everyone by allowing them to work in their own style. And that happens in improv as well. In teaching, I pay particular attention to who the introverts and who the extroverts are, because my experience is that they take direction differently. They take notes differently. If an introvert is doing something that isn't working, I won't say anything directly to the introvert. I will say something to the entire group that suggests what went wrong. And I won't even look at them when I'm doing that. Because if I give notes to a strongly introverted person, they take that inside and they think about it, and they're gone for the rest of the class. They're off doing their processing there. On the other hand, extroverts have a hard time hearing things that don't make them look great. So with them, I'm a little harder on them. I speak directly, I look directly at them, I speak directly to them, and I tell them exactly what I would like them to do differently. And you just have to be sensitive to the way they work.
Yeah.
So you might have a little bit of trouble being too direct to an introvert, and also understanding an introvert might be more insightful because they have been mulling over what other people have said. So there's value to being an introvert.
Absolutely.
or to...
And there's value to being an extrovert. They're both valuable functions. And we happen in this world to have about 3 times as many extroverts as we do introverts.
Oh, really?
And because of that, it's not uncommon for them to be sort of elevated while we diminish the role of extroverts. But they're both important. They're both important in different ways. When I teach, when I taught the innovation class at Google, one of the things that we worked on there was, how do you come up with new ideas? How do you create new ideas? And I have a real problem with the way brainstorming is conventionally done. It doesn't work. Interestingly enough, the guy who invented brainstorming back in the 40s, and I can never remember his name, he said 6 months after he published the value of it that it wouldn't work. But no one heard that. They only heard that brainstorming was the wonderful thing to do, and you had to put all kinds of ideas out without evaluating them. And so you end up with a plethora of ideas up. You're not going to use most of them, but they're there and they're distracting you. So.
Well, what is the difference between innovation and creativity?
Great question. Great question. Creativity is a part of innovation, but it's not all there is to innovation. You can't innovate without being creative, but you can't be innovative. Well, yes, you can't innovate without.
Wait, let him finish his thought.
Well, please help me here.
He's an extrovert here. No. Okay, the difference?
Yeah. So creativity is coming up with an idea that you've never had before. It's coming up with a thought that's never happened, or a connection to something that's never happened, a connection of 2 ideas, one to another, that's never happened. That may have nothing at all to do with the issue that you're trying to design around, the problem that the product you're trying to make. You also need a couple of things. You need a set of skills in the area that you're working in, and you need a knowledge base. Let me take painting as an example. You're a painter. So you need to be creative to know what you're going to paint, but you also have to have the skills that allow you to know exactly how to slice that carrot that you're going to paint with. And beyond that, you have to know your materials. So you need a knowledge base of how different paints work with one another. You need to know you have knowledge of the theory of color balance and color mixing, and all of those elements. Those are all necessary to to have anything come out of your result from your creativity.
Well, yeah. I wanted to ask, with all these concepts you've been working with improv and that, and developing, How is it, I'd like to see some of the things that you've gained from just some of your endeavors that you've learned from these many years. And we do have some pictures.
Great.
See them.
We see some of your creative stuff.
Let's
if
talk
we
a little
could
bit
see
about
that, I'm really excited with the work you have done. Shows that it works.
Maybe we can have that
Yeah,
first,
can we see
first
some of
image
those
up.
pictures with here? Oh, this looks like chairs.
Yeah, they are chairs. What I needed was I needed a couch for my living room. And I don't like couches that are conventionally available because they're large and bulky and
sag.
Their design element is mass. That's what they go for. They go for mass. That is the defining element of a conventional couch. I really like Danish modern furniture. The trouble with that is because it's 60 years old now, it's a little dated. So my attempt with this was to do both the coffee table and the sofa. My attempt was to do something that paid homage to Danish modern, but was modernized to do it. And so that's what I
Very
did.
cool. I
So
like that.
I designed this and was lucky enough to find someone who would build it for me.
Ah.
This is something completely different. This is a package that I decorated for a white elephant party. And here it was the materials that drove the innovation, drove the design. I found these really cute miniature clothespins, and I just had to use them for something. So I did this package with them. Let's have, there we go. This is a part of a squash, the shell of a squash.
Is that a gourd? Or it
Yeah,
looks
a
like
gourd.
A gourd.
A
Yeah.
Oh, a gourd. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That I've sawed out to a shape and then painted a little bit and skewered to make it stand up.
Oh, very cute.
These are windows. I have my house that's decorated in modern. I designed most of the furniture in it, and it's all very modern. But I found that some people are really uncomfortable with modern, my mother, for example. So I wanted to have a room that fit in with the house, but yet was comfortable for her. So I made this guest bedroom what would have been modern 150 years ago. And it had these windows, and so what I needed there, I thought, was to make them stained glass. And so I designed a stained glass setup that goes across the span of the windows.
Nice.
I love this.
This is a multimedia sculpture that I did. That's kind of where I've been putting my artistic endeavors of recent years. It's called The Illusion of Control, and the only trouble with that title is that you have to know both aeronautics, and you have to be both an aviator and a psychologist to understand why it is that. It's obvious that the control surfaces are all on the little balloon that Pilot Bob sits in at the bottom, but they're only attached by ropes to the lifting body, which is above it. So they couldn't really have any control at all, even though Bob might think he has control. This is about 1.5 meters long by 3/4 of a meter high. It's a pretty large piece. There we go. I needed a lamp. I had the house I moved into had sort of ornate and pricey, but god awful ugly light fixtures in it. So, and it had one on each side of this doorway. So I wanted to make a fixture that would span over the door and pick up both of them. So I cut some PVC pipe and bonded it together, and then wrapped the whole thing with ribbons of different kinds, several hundred yards of ribbons. Let's have the next. There we go.
Aw.
This one is a butterfly boat. It's in my art. I love the juxtaposition of things that could never be. I love surrealism.
Yes.
I like creating the illusion of something that is a lie, but that helps people understand a greater truth. And so the boat is called Voyager, and it's a steam-powered butterfly boat. So it would be way heavy and would never fly, but
But in your world.
But in my world, yes, in the place where I live, in the reality that I've created, it's consistent within that reality.
Sounds good to me.
And
Oh, yes, I like this.
this is a fairly large painting. I had a space over my mantle that I needed to fill, and
What's the size of that painting?
it's 60 inches wide by 70,
72, maybe?
70. It's 5 feet by 7 feet.
5 feet.
Okay, whatever that is.
Do the math. And
Pretty nice.
I wanted it to represent sort of any man jumping off the cliff with the confidence to know that he would discover a way to save himself before he hit the bottom. Because that's kind of what improv is about. It's developing that sense of confidence that allows you to throw yourself fully into a thing, jump into it completely without knowing how it's going to come out, knowing confidently that you will find a way to make it work.
So you're confident, you throw yourself, and here you are, and we'll make it work.
And sometimes it doesn't in improv. I mean, sometimes
you're safe.
you crash. But you find out that even crashing is okay.
Yeah.
That it didn't kill you.
Right.
And you probably learned something in the doing of it. So,
Yeah.
Not to jump.
not. Yeah, maybe that.
Well, creativity, getting back to that,
Yeah.
how can we learn to develop skills for creative thinking?
Yeah. The bad news is you can't you can't learn creativity. But the good news is that it's an innate quality of humans. We all know how to be creative. We come out of we come out of our moms that way, being creative. And the thing that happens to us too often is, for one reason or another, there are many societal pressures that tell us not to be that, not that we're not good at that, or that's a bad thing, or you shouldn't think that way, whatever. What we can do in improv and in other ways, Zen helps this too. I mean, Zen does this too. It allows us to find our way back to our own creativity, to let go of these things that limit us. And that we can do. And improv is one of the ways to do that, by these, not rules, but by these ideas that I presented about being mindful and accepting reality.
Well,
So-
also, I've thought about this, about our standard education. You develop a discipline, and you almost get hardwired into following the rules. And the more you get involved and deeper into that discipline in your job, let's say, or something, sometimes you kind of starts narrowing your thinking. So you need some way, outlet to be creative, so you can help break down those filters that want to keep everything out, but what the rules are, stick to the rules.
I think the very best teachers I've ever had were the best teachers because they elicited from me something other than just the rules, something other than just the data. All that data, the information is important. It has to be there, but it isn't all that's important. You need to have that as something that you can bounce weird thoughts off of. So when I'm doing design work, I've been a designer. I was a designer. I'm retired now, but I was a designer for years. And when I get a design problem, the first thing I do is sit back and put my feet up and stare at the wall for about 3 weeks. And I sort of let the possibilities of what that might be soak in. I let the ideas of it completely take me over. It's the being committed to that one idea part of it. When I get to that stage, then every thought I have relates to the in need. So as I have creative impulses, which are just random firings of neurons that probably mostly don't mean anything, occasionally one of them sort of connects with the need. And it works in a very organic way because now I have essentially become that product. And so when an idea comes of how it could be made or how it could work, it's easy to almost feel how effective that would be. And so that's allowed me, that process is then allows me to very quickly do the development process after that.
So you're letting your subconscious do the work, kind of?
subconscious is there. It's certainly part of it, but but it needs training. It needs to be molded subconscious. It can't be just nothing. It kind of has to go with itself.
So when you're
stretch.
coaching for improv, and I know you do work with actors and that, a lot of them have a hard time letting go of their own persona or personality, and you help them break that barrier. Is that true?
It is true. It is true. It is true. It's very challenging for people to take on a role that they don't see fitting with who they are. And it's and that's unfortunate because that's one of the beauties of improv. I think of it as leveraging karma. You know, in improv, I can be a character. I can be a child molester, a wife beater, a murderer. I can be anything without having to be that. I can get a taste of what it is to the extent that I can commit to that role. I can get a taste of what it might be to be that person.
So you learn how to let go of your own personality and
to have it exist separately, to compartmentalize. In order to do the character well, I have to take the stimulus that comes to me, have an honest reaction to it as the actor, and then interpret how the character would react to that stimulus, because it's probably not the same as me. And I want it to be realistic, so I want to have it come from me, but go to the character. I don't work mainly with actors. My interest in improv is not an interest in acting.
for acting, though. Yeah.
It's a lot of the people that I work with, that is their interest.
Well, I
and
imagine
they
a lot
do
of the
it.
people that come to you want to be actors or
It's
people
true.
who.
I would think so, yeah.
There's a lot more than they can gain from what.
Exactly.
And a lot of people who don't want to be actors can learn. And that's what I'm hearing from you now, that there's so many other benefits.
Yeah.
It's just not about acting.
Thank
it's
you for
about-
hearing that. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes, that's exactly right. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be an actor. I think that's fine, but
But you
There's
know
more.
what? We're out of time.
out of time.
But I'd love to put you on the spot and watch you improvise. So would you do the 1 minute thing here and say goodbye to everybody?
Well, this has been the Darlene and Doug Carman Show. My name is Will Whitted, and I've been happy to be the guest here tonight. We've gotten to talk a lot about improv and how valuable it is to many things, and I hope all of you will find a way to explore it more.
Great, you did a good job there.
It's just improv.
That was great.
So anyway, out there, thank you for watching the show, and watch again. Very good. I knew you could do it.